Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. For today's video we are going to be making this wrap top. Yeah, has a long sleeve, absolutely amazing, perfect for winter. So yeah, let's get into the tutorial. So when you get your PDF pattern, as you scroll through your pages, you will notice a little section that is written the layout of this PDF pattern. This shows you how your pattern needs to be laid out when you assemble it. And also there is layers printing available. This allows you to print one size at a time, two sizes, three sizes, however many sizes that you want. Remember that we do have 7 sizes available. Print your pattern at 100% scale or actual size. Snip off the right border and the bottom and overlap it with your next page to make full circles in the corners. This is how the layout of this pattern is. Remember, we're going to be using 40 stretch fabric, and your seam allowance has been included, which is half an inch seam allowance. Now we're going to start off with laying out our back piece facing up, right side facing up. So basically the right sides of the back and front will be touching. So I'm starting with the wrap part of my top. Yeah, I'm putting the right sides together, putting them at the shoulders, and then I'm going to stitch using a straight stitch. I am also going to be using my serger. However, if you don't have a serger, it's perfectly fine. You can do this part with your straight stitch. So now what I'm going to do is to neaten those loose threads, those threads that are hanging over. I'm going to take my loop turner and put it under the chain thread right over there, the chain stitch. And then I'm going to get that extra thread, pull it out and snip off the excess. I'm doing this because I don't want to cut too close to where my stitch starts because it will start to unravel. So yeah, I'm going to take that little extra, just tuck it under there, and that is how I get all of my seams to be nice and neat. And I'm going to do this for my pieces. Now what I'm doing is I'm taking my top and I'm folding it in half, and then I'm going to measure that. You don't need to do this part because your pattern already includes your binding, but basically my binding is 80% of the total measurement that I got. So whatever measurement that you got, it's going to be for me it was 44, so 44 multiplied by 0.8 is going to get you 80% of that. The reason why I'm making it short is because I want it to fit close to my skin. I don't want it to gape or be too loose or be too loose. So I marked the center of that binding, and I'm matching the center of my binding with the center back of my top. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stitch it on like that, and I'm going to stretch as I stitch. Let's stitch. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to push my seam allowance towards my binding and then fold my binding over, and then I'm going to complete with a straight stitch right in the ditch right over there. So for this part, I'm using a straight stitch. Remember, if you don't have serger, you would have cut off your excess seam allowance, folded it over, and then you are going to do your stitch in the ditch. So try to get your stitch as close as you can to that, little crease right there. Every now and then it might overlap, but yeah, just try to get as close as you can. You almost want to make the stitch invisible. And make sure that you are catching the extra seam allowance at the bottom, beneath it. And when you're done with this, you are going to trim off the excess seam allowance. Now I'm going to take my front pieces, the wrap part, and I'm just going to overlap them, making sure that those notches match up perfectly. Yeah, so I'm just going to overlap my notches. Not overlap my notches, match my notches, sorry. And then at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and take the bottom piece and I'm just going to match the notches again. Now the bottom piece is slightly a bit longer than the two wrap pieces. Yeah, so you're gonna need to stretch it. As you stitch it, you're going to just need to slightly stretch everything to fit. So I'm gonna go over there and stitch using a zigzag stitch. If you're using your serger, I'm gonna use a straight stitch because I know I'm taking it to my serger. Did I say a zigzag stitch if you're using a serger? I mean a zigzag stitch if you are using your sewing machine. I'm not using my sewing machine, I'm using my serger, but I'm using the straight stitch as a basting stitch to keep everything in place. Then I'm going in on my serger. So now I'm gonna work on my sleeves. All I'm going to do is just fold my sleeves in half, right sides together, and then just stitch the side seam. Now I do want to apologize for this. The clip where I was stitching my top, stitching the side seams, I did lose that clip for some odd reason. But anyway, you will also in the background you will stitch the side seam of your top together. You're gonna see how I stitched it. Just put it at the side seams, right sides together, and then just stitch it. Remember that the back piece is slightly shorter than the front piece, so you would have to just match the notches, and you're going to do that by just easing the front piece. Again, I am so sorry for not having that clip, but if you watch some of my previous videos, you will notice you can just go through them and see how I attach the how I pin everything on the side seam and stitch my side seams for the tops. It's the same thing in all of the videos. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be attaching my sleeve onto my top. I am going to turn my sleeve right side out as well as turn my top right side out. I did stitch the side seams of the top and lost the footage. I'm so sorry for that, guys, but yeah. So what I want to do is just turn the top inside out, turn the sleeve inside out, and then match the side seam of the sleeve and the top, match them together and pin them in place. Then the center notch on your sleeve is meant to line up with the shoulder seam, and then one notch on the sleeve represents the front, which will match up with your front, and then the other two notches that represent the back will match with your back. So just make sure that you are lining up your notches exactly where they are supposed to be. As soon as I'm done pinning everything, I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and just stitch it using a straight stitch. Then I'm going to take it to my serger to serge it. But at this point, if you're just using a sewing machine, you would just need to complete a straight stitch and then trim off the excess seam allowance. Now I'm going to hem my top. All I'm doing is just folding it half an inch inwards and then stitching it using a zigzag stitch, and I'm going to do the same thing for my sleeves at the wrist, and I am now done with the top. I really hope that you guys found this video helpful. Yeah, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.